This is the industrial side. Most industrial businesses are either won or lost in the day-to-day operations. These are conversations with the operators who run these firms, talking about how they run them, what works, and what doesn't.
All right, so this is a first for our podcast. I've never had more than one guest at the same time. And now we've got a husband and wife duo.
That's
you guys are gonna lap me a little bit here.
We're the dynamic duo right now.
So we got Elizabeth and Sammy Kaufman from Kaufman Logistics. How you guys doing today?
We're good. How are you doing, Brian?
We're good. Today has been a very busy day, but I'm happy to get into this with you. I've been trying desperately not to interview the same people from the same industries in every episode, and you're the first person from freight logistics that I've been able to get in this freight forwarding. And so I'm happy to kind of dive into this other area of like the real economy, bringing products to real people. So happy to have you on.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Excited to share it with your audience, what we do and the other side.
Yeah.
The movement sides.
So I'm gonna start with some really dumb questions. Let's pretend that I'm not dumb, but I might be. The test results aren't in yet.
I'm the dumbest person in the room, honestly. Most of the time, my answer is I don't know.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot, actually.
Yeah. Sometimes that is the answer.
And I'll find out the answer. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit in pre-calls and like prior discussions about like kind of what you guys do, but it'd be good for the audience just to hear like what is freight forwarding? What is the scope of what you guys do? What do you do for who?
All right. Freight forwarding. So, all right, we're everything. So we're like the travel agent, right? We get your cargo's journey from door to door or port to door or whatever that person or the company needs. So we are the travel agent. We do the paperwork department. We're the translator, the insurance desk. We do the freight. We book the space. We negotiate the rate. We prepare the documents. We clear the customs. We arrange the trucking on both ends. And when something goes wrong, and in logistics, something usually does, we're the person they're calling at 2 a.m. and we're the ones making it right. And at the end of the day, when our end is when the cargo's on your floor or the cargo's in your warehouse and the paperwork is closed, we did our job.
So if I'm basically like a clothing wholesaler and I want a bunch of Italian belts, I order them from Italy. I guess when do you guys come in? Like there's a manufacturer in Italy. I order it from them. I have the product. I have the count that I want. They give me a date when it's going to be ready and when the box is going to be there. What part are you taking over?
So then the second that it's ready, we're going to get the call and we're going to go get the container and get a truck to pick up the container, the empty container, and bring it to the manufacturer. And then they're going to load it and then we're going to put it on the ship. And then that's where we start.
Got it.
So literally door to door. So we get that trucker, we get the container. So we're pretty much renting that container on your behalf. And we're going to take it, they're going to fill it, and then we're going to make sure it gets on the exact vessel that you need to be, and then bring it on in. And then once that also happens, we're creating right from there, making sure that we know when the ISF is going to get filed, because we're also the custom broker. So we're doing it all.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, like, because I'm not familiar with the terminology. Like, I know there's different meanings behind it, but like freight forwarder versus custom broker versus like 3PL. Like, are those all different things? Like, do you do all of those things, or like, where do you fall within that spectrum?
So as a company, we do all three items. Where we do the freight forwarding, we do the custom brokerage, and we do the warehousing 3PL. On a giant scale, there are actually three different moves within the freight world. So freight forwarding is, again, just the physical movement, whether it be container, whether it be ocean, whether it be air, from point A to point B. Custom brokerage is almost like a tax accountant, where we're facilitating the paperwork. We have a license that gives us the right to clear customs brokerage and to tell the government what you're bringing into this country. So every import of goods has to go through U.S. Customs and Border. The Department of Homeland Security is in charge of protecting our borders. With that, custom brokers are the kind of the broker between. We call them brokers because we're taking your goods, we're telling customs what you have, and we're acting as a liaison to safely, legally protect the government, also safely, legally import the goods for you so you can continue your business onward. So the custom brokerage is its own department. And lastly, once it gets in the country, what people don't realize sometimes is what happens then? So the distributor then puts it into a warehouse. And from that warehouse, it needs to go to different businesses, whether it be B2B, other distributors, or Amazon directly to the consumer. That's 3PL, the packing, the distribution, the last mile deliveries. That's a different part of it. So from our company, we actually handle, if you call us and say, I have garments ready, as you stated, in Italy, my belts are ready next week. We do the whole move from start to finish, from compliance to the physical movement of the goods right to your warehouse door floor. And in the end, what you see is it's ready and it arrived. That's your concern as a business. We take care of the physical move and the compliance side of it.
Got it. So it could be like a twin cost between like who you think the value is being delivered to, but like, would you say your customer is the buyer or the seller? Because in many ways, you're helping both of them.
So in many scenarios, it could be both. So we are really right between importers, exporters, manufacturers, and distributors on one side. We're also physically involved with the ocean carriers, the truckers, the railroads, the warehouses. So in our Rolodex of business, which Elizabeth can talk about a little bit more, is we service the importer, which is the person buying the goods. We also service some of the manufacturers, the people selling the goods into the United States. We also support other custom brokers or freight forwarders in this business that need custom brokerage and all that. So we can support all parts of the industry. We fall with our tools and our licensing and that we handle everything. We fall right in the middle and we can support both sides, and we do both sides.
And where does the call come from? The call comes from the importer usually?
Usually from the importer. So our clients are usually the manufacturer or the supplier. So usually it's from the importer or sometimes the exporter, because we also export goods too.
Gotcha. Well, that's interesting because if you think about it from like the one creating the products, it's like, yeah, we don't have the infrastructure to get stuff from, let's say, Europe to the US. So we need some group to like do that for us. But like when you're a buyer, it's like, how did they think of this? How did they think of like, I want to buy something from Europe and they have no delivery to my country? Let me call you guys. Like, where does that education point come in? How do they know to even do that?
Well, sometimes depending on the country, they might actually have someone in their own country, right? They might know a freight forwarder or broker there, and then they'll call us because we
work together. Different brokers work together across countries.
Yeah. So there's a whole network, right? We have a lot of partners that we deal with in Pakistan, in Israel, in Italy, in Spain, and in India, and Australia, in Canada. And there's so many people. It's a whole network. People in industries or people in general think of a lot of things as a competition. But I think what makes us and sets us apart is really it's not a competition. You're really working together. You're able to really communicate and collaborate more than anything else within this industry. And that's what we do, especially with our partners over there. So they could be doing that. And then we get the call and they're like, hey, we know a great freight forwarder and custom broker that we'll work with, or that you could work with directly. Sometimes we know the supplier and then they'll let their client know about us, or just use other referrals, or they look us up.
Yeah, you can have it. Again, remember, it's who initiates the shipment. So to go back to the guy buying the belt, is he responsible to ship it and get it back to himself in the US? Or is he relying on the manufacturer and say, I'm buying these belts, your problem, bring it, here's my address, 123 Main Street, USA. What time are you delivering it? So in terms of the who's responsible, that's who we speak to and engage first. So that's the most important is the shipping terms. So with any business industry, in terms of buying and selling goods from international, the shipping terms should be very clearly defined by buyer and seller. And that will tell us as freight forwarders, logistics, custom brokers, pretty much who's responsible to ship, who's our client, who's legally responsible, who's paying us, who, if it gets lost. All of these things are defined in shipping terms. And that's really who we'll contact. We can also contact first based on the shipping terms.
Yeah. And so I guess I'm wondering then, like, for instance, like if I order something from Amazon, say Amazon was mentioned earlier, sometimes it's like a Amazon partner doing it. Sometimes it's like a different company doing delivery. Right. And so like they're giving me some estimate about when my delivery will be. But I don't really know who's doing the delivery. So it's like, I guess when is this on the seller that we have something we need to get to Atlanta, Georgia next week? Like, let me call my freight forwarder. That freight forwarder calls you because you're in the US. Like
80% of the time, it's even maybe higher. It comes from the importer, the buying side.
okay.
You want actually full control.
Yeah.
So you make an order from Italy belts. You're the belt wholesaler here in America. You want to have as much control as possible through the whole lane, because then you have the control. You know who to call, what time, the vessels, what's the problems, what's not the problem, so you can articulate the delivery date to make your sales continue. The goal of us is, when we're successful, you never hear anything. You pick up the phone and say, Sammy, my goods are ready next week in Italy. And if you don't hear anything in between,
Which you
probably won't, you've done our job, because it arrived to your warehouse at a time that you expected to continue on the sales, whether it be to the stores or directly on to consumer. So you want most of the shipments that are initiated here because they want control. They want to tell you where to go, and they want their forwarder to handle it just like you want your trucker or anything like that. You have more control, you make better decisions. And from a liability standpoint, it's also better because of customs and all that.
Got it. So if I were to dumb this down a lot, let's say, you have the option of doing in-store pickup at Home Depot. So like we say some items have been ordered at Home Depot, and then I call you and say, my items will be ready at Home Depot on Friday. Can you get that from Italy? The Home Depot in Italy, for some reason, I'm ordering from to Miami.
Well, no, because I mean, you could, right?
Absolutely.
Because of granite, or anything else. Like there's a real thing where say it's a Home Depot order, right? If you're going to say break it down a little bit, is that Home Depot even, right? Because now their sellers, Home Depot is almost like Amazon in a sense too, because they're all built sort of in the same way. Is that it's a seller coming, like showing his granite on the Home Depot, and then you would have to buy it. Now, it would be more of the same thing. You wouldn't be doing it, even though you're the buyer at Home Depot. You would then, whoever is selling that granite, that would be the person most likely we would be working with.
That would be a U.S. company.
Because that would be most likely a U.S. company, and they're buying it. Their supplier in Italy is then we're going to start with them and work with that supplier and then get it here to that guy that's selling to you.
Got it.
Because what's happening also is a lot of things are changing a bit too, in terms of with everything that's happening in the government and having it here and Amazon and all of that is there's shifts happening. And they're starting to really crack down within the custom brokerage and what they're expecting out of their freight forwarders and their custom brokers. They really want it to be a heavily more based and knowing where it comes from and like what's going on. So they really want more of a hands-on approach here in the US, not only manufacturing here, but also the people that are bringing it in like us to know where it's coming from and really understanding the suppliers and the clients and making sure everything is, as we say, kosher or legitimate.
Or compliant.
Yeah,
so from the Home Depot example, if you have, let's say you're going into the store and you're buying that orange Home Depot bucket, right, from the store. Someone is selling that to Home Depot. So the purchasing agent at Home Depot will say, hi, for this quarter, Mr. Bucket A company in the US, we need 10,000 buckets for the quarter. Now, Bucket A company from the US is going to call his manufacturer in Asia, more likely or not, because it's plastics, and say, hey, next month I need 10,000 buckets. So at that point, the company in the US is going to call me and say, hey, next month we have at so-and-so factory 10,000 buckets going to Home Depot, no problem. We then facilitate the whole chain. So we will call the supplier, make sure they have their export documents, compliance ready, all of the things stuffed, the paperwork in hand, the actual container ready for them to be stuffed and loaded. Our truckers will then get it from their factory, put it on the ocean carrier. That's the ship that everyone sees on TV with the big mega ships with those thousands of containers. That's the carrier. Their job is to move it across the ocean. We facilitate that move with documents and the right to move it. Once it comes to America, we then break it down, let's say in a warehouse by the port. Sorry, we'll clear it. Thank you, Elizabeth. One step back. We have to clear it into the government. We have to pay the government the duties and taxes that it's owed. Once it's we bring it to a warehouse, say by the port. It's broken down further. It's pulled from the container. Then we take those goods and we'll move it to a Home Depot distribution center. That Home Depot distribution center will check in and say, yes, we did get 10,000 buckets. They'll let customer importer know that everything is good on their end. And then even crazier is if we worked with Home Depot as well, then the final mile distribution is to the stores.
Yeah.
And then you walk into the store and buy that bucket. So there's a lot of companies that are selling, buying, and moving between you buying that bucket in Home Depot and it being manufactured in any country at that point, let's say Asia for this argument's sake.
We really say everything that someone's either holding, wearing, or sitting on.
We ship.
It's getting brought in. It's shipped. You know, it's getting moved within globally. And it's getting brought here.
And I assume people they're doing their own sourcing though. They're not saying we need a bucket.
No, they're mostly people are doing sourcing. Sometimes we do also construction. So we do a lot of construction projects, project cargo. You know, sometimes they will ask like, do you want to source this for us? But like I said, within any business, there's a lot of hands. There's a lot of cooks in a kitchen. There's a head chef and a sous chef and everybody in between that's going to perfect that meal. And for us, it's the same thing. So we're just moving it. And that's what we tell a lot of our clients. It's like, oh, you're going to source that for us? It's like, no, but I know a guy, but we're just going to move it for you. So we're going to pick it up for you and then we're going to ship it out and get it to your door. But the sourcing is not what we do. And especially being a custom broker also, that could cause a conflict of interest. And we're not looking to have any of that.
And so the companies that are manufacturing the goods who are exporting the goods, are they typically smaller companies?
No, you'd be
like the suppliers like in Italy or something?
Yeah. I'm just wondering why they wouldn't set up their own supply chain.
Well, sometimes they can. So it depends really. So it could be even a mid-size, and it's not Walmart. You know what I mean? Like the Walmarts, the Costco's, all those they set up their supply chains. Like they're too big. They own. I mean, at this point, I'm pretty sure some of them even have ships just carrying their goods, you know, just for them. But they're their own supply chain. But when it comes to anything even a bit smaller or something that's more just what's the word specialty, like a windows or anything that's something different, they're not doing it. And it also depends on what the importer wants, right? Because they're
exactly that point. The supplier wants to sell the goods and either
or the manufacturer,
it's a new country or so forth, but ultimately they want to make their customer happy. So the risk and decision of who controls it is generally decided by the buyer. Although they might get cheaper rates by being a conglomerate in their own supply chain, the buyer might say, that's great, but I want control. Because again, control and shipping terms is more important sometimes than having them just say, bring it to me.
Yeah. So what you're offering the importer is control of the entire process. So
because sometimes when you're bigger, you're another client. You know, that happens too. They could be a bigger company. So they're going to put you on a list or try to but it's a factory. It's just going where once you call us, we're making sure of your, end to end. And depending on what kind of importer you are or what you're importing, depending if it's luxury or if it's mass goods or something else, or like something with cruise where they have deadlines, you're going to make sure that it gets there. And that's why they call us, because we're going to make sure that it gets to there at the time that you need it.
If you leave it in the manufacturer's hands, they have full control of when they manufacture, when it leaves the factory, when it gets to you, and you're putting all of your eggs in that basket. And mind you, this is just the first step. You still have to get the product and sell it and run your business, more likely or not. So by putting it into the manufacturer, and like Liz said, you might be the small customer because you just started buying with them. And then all of a sudden, Johnny A calls and says, hey, I need this now. And all of a sudden they're going to say, okay,
back.
They're a $9 million a day account. You guys just started. Sorry, we're going to take your container. Whereas if you have control and we're booking it and we're picking it up, they can't say sorry, no, thank you. So the small guy or even the big guy in America is treated as the customer, as they should be in the logistics chain, because they're our client. The vendor has to work through our stipulations and our deadlines for the client's behalf, or they won't succeed in maybe reselling to the client.
Interesting. So it seems like almost like this benefits like the smaller and mid-sized buyers. And so that makes me think in terms of freight forwarding as an industry, like do people just prefer to have small or medium-sized freight forwarders to work for? Because I guess if you get to like the bigger ones, then you get the same treatment that you would from the manufacturer.
So you have
For the
time.
most part, sorry, but
Right.
you could, it depends on your needs. So a lot of times, Sammy and I actually started because that's what we saw. It was like a lot of automation. It came to the time, where you're pressing zero and you're just looking to speak to someone. It's like in any industry, it was like people get big and, they're great in some aspects, but when it comes to a boutique personalized touch or flexibility or getting someone on the actual phone, that's when you want someone that is, a little smaller or a little more mid-sized like we are.
I don't think it's also how small you are, it's your needs as what kind of company you are. Because you can either get in the logistics, I always tell people, you can either get it for cheap or fast. You can't have both.
Yeah.
You have to pick. It's either price driven or customer driven. So there's other clients. So if you have a mass produced dollar store item and you're selling at margins that are pennies, every cent matters to you. And you're also turning simple goods that are moving very fast. You don't need any help. You have your own thing. It comes in, it goes to dollar, and you need that. That's a price point thing. And some of the larger, bigger freight forwarders have price point service that fits that model. Whereas other clients, they need time. If it's delayed by a couple weeks, it costs them maybe tens of thousands of dollars on the back end. So they're willing to spend $200 to work with a smaller boutique firm that can handle that and not worry. It becomes cheaper in an essence because we're saving them on the back end. We do a lot of project cargo, like Elizabeth said, in cargo. So yes, you might find someone that's $100 cheaper from door to door in some cases, but with the planning and the project cargo, every minute late on a job site, every miscoordination doesn't just cost you the $100 or the few $100. It costs you the 20 guys, union guys waiting on the job site for that one window or that one piece of pipe to put into the ground, or the delay of the crane is there. He makes $1,200 an hour. Or the job site, you need to finish by January 1, and every day after in your stipulation of the contract, the bank is going to charge you X percentage late fees because your project's not done. So the implication could be much larger. So you're not looking to save $1, $2, $50, $100. You're looking for that service and peace of mind that someone you can trust to bring your goods when you need it. So there's a balancing act of what your needs are to discuss. It's not necessarily a small company, a big company. It's what you really need to get out of it. What's important to you is, what is it? Money or time or both? And we find that solution that fits our clients. We have all different clients that things are important, more important than others. We have to learn our clients. We have clients that send me a text message at 3 a.m. and I know him very well. And he'll say, my stuff is ready. And that's it. I know his stuff. I know where it is. I know his manufacturer. I know what he wants. And I know the whole supply chain. So that is enough. And I'll text him in the morning, good morning, taken care of. And that's it for him. There's other clients that want updates every week. They want to know where their shipment is, what it is, what's the delays. Before they even wake up, they want to know if there's any problems because every day is this. So you learn to mold our team to bring the customer first. And that's where we stand out.
Yeah. And a lot of times, how we work also is that we're just so client focused and white glove and boutique and everything along those lines, is that most of our clients just feel like they're in-house logistics. Like that's just, we talk to our clients all day long, even if it's not a fire, they're just calling us because just a question, any questions they have, anything that's going on within that realm is within logistics. They just call us. That's what I tell our clients. It's like me and Sammy laugh about it. So we're like, we're their in-house logistics.
And therapy.
Yeah. It works.
It's also not small, and boutique is not a bad thing because you get the feeling of a person and like a mom and pop or like a bed and breakfast. But mind you, our company, we have the tools and the capabilities as the Fortune 500, the top 5 logistics companies, but we're also fully licensed. Everything is in-house. We're not just the guy that's making the deals happen in between the broker or the truck broker. We are the in-house freight forwarder. We have the air license, the ocean license, the custom clearance license, the trucking license. So we are able to provide that white glove service for while being in-house.
Yeah. And I guess a question I would have, I mean, it seems like you broke it up into like the customer either wants speed or they want price, but like how do they know when they're buying? Like how do they make
Actually, most people want both.
Yeah,
And
right.
most people want both until, push comes to shove. But what happens is when you're dealing with these clients, they know what they're doing, they know their business, and they really know what their needs are. So if you're dealing with a construction or with a cruise or with food, you're dealing more with time. All right, you're dealing with more commodities. You're dealing more with time critical, time sensitive containers and projects and commodities. When you're dealing with clothing, and also depending on the time, right? Because depending on the season. But when you're dealing with clothing, it's a container. It's containers coming in.
Well,
and it's coming in at a certain time, and they know when it's going to come in, and it's a little different. But they also want a service because depending on the season. But most people want both, but depending on the client.
There is an option of both. So from an operational standpoint, you can have both, because keep in mind there's two ways to transfer internationally to the US, for example, on imports. It's air and ocean, and trucking. If you're, say, from Canada or Mexico, you can truck. So someone might want faster, we would have to ship it air. So an average container from, say, Europe to US is about 30 to 40 days. An average air cargo shipment is 3 to 5 days. So you can have fast, and relative to price, you can get a good deal, but it's still expensive because you have to bring it in 3 days. You can imagine flying a container's worth of air, and the air is expensive, but it's relative to what you need it for. If you need it tomorrow, no ifs, ands, or buts, that's what you do. So it's on your actual business and when you need it, and the right planning. If you plan correctly and you buy correctly and you source correctly and you work with us as a logistics arm, like your in-house, we have this conversation, you can plan efficiently throughout the year to where you're not rushing. There are minimal surprises and your schedule matches the transit time. So you can save money that way rather than fighting per shipment $50, $100. By planning the right way with your logistics arm, we can save you money knowing peak season surcharges are at certain times, different seasons. We can play with that to help you save money and be faster.
Yeah,
by understanding the world and how it's going in different trade lanes, they transshipment. So you have to understand that world and move forward.
Yeah, and that's why I keep wondering like how much this feeds into sourcing, because I would imagine a customer comes to you and say, we want this extremely fast, we want this extremely cheap, and like, where do they buy it from? Like, does that make that?
It also happens that with all the planning and everything else, depending on the supplier, sometimes even we have a client that does clothing, and they're excellent at planning. I mean, they're really very efficient, but every so often their supplier or something happens, and we've had to do air for them.
Really?
Yeah. They needed it. Their client needed it, and it had to be air. So it's just, it's life. Things happen. And sometimes you just got to spend a little bit more because someone needs it, because they're our clients and they have clients,
right?
And their clients need it. So things that happens. But yeah, it's important to have good suppliers. It's important to have good suppliers. It's good to know the whole line when dealing in business. You need to know A to the Z, especially now. It's not like back in the day where you just you're finding someone or whatever else. Like especially with the internet, we had a call, and what's the one? Not Amazon, but the other one,
Alibaba. Which
they were sort of sourcing a little bit on Alibaba, and it's just like, oh well, that's showing something, and it's just like that's not the best. It's not going to give you exactly what you need. Like we said, you need to find a good sourcer.
So you have two clients. The first client is already embedded and is buying and selling, and they need you to help them fix or improve or their supply chain. So you're not the sourcer. Some of the other clients that we have, the new clients, we find that we're in the brink between sourcing and shipping, and we have to make that clear distinction. Because like you said, hey, I want to buy flooring I need new flooring. I heard it's cheaper in Asia. I looked at Alibaba and it's 10 cents. And if I go to Home Depot, it's $1. Those are the new clients that would ask more about the sourcing. And we have to clearly define, like, we are right after you buy. Yeah. You go buy, we do everything else. But we can refer sourcing agents and all that. We try to segregate the two because we're not buyers and we're the people that make sure it moves. We can suggest countries based on regulations and compliance and HTS codes and the current status of duties and taxes that would be a beneficial country to work with based on trade agreements and so forth for that product. But that's advice from knowledge of our products, but they would have to buy their own goods. And then we jump.
Well, that leads me into what's going to be some of my last questions. Just like, I guess, like, what do you wish that like every customer knew before they called you? Is it that you can't source everything for them? Or
I think there's two things. Liz has their own ways of what they should know, and then from my side, from the operational side, I think the most important, there's two things. You should know your shipping terms.
Yeah.
And that's EX Works, FOB, or some of the wordings that people can look up. Know your shipping terms, because that completely defines the legal liability of your shipment from start to finish. Also, call us before, because by talking to us before it's on the water, we can ask those questions. We can figure out the paperwork, make sure there's no surprises, because when it comes to the port in the US and there is regulatory issues with customs unfortunately does not care or bother that the paperwork is wrong. They expect you to fix it. And every day it sits at a port is hundreds of dollars a day.
Well, that's what I'm going to say is cheap becomes expensive a lot of times. I grew up in a family business, and my grandfather always just made a point. It's just like, because you want to try it cheap the first time or try to figure it out yourself. And then because you don't want to spend the money, you don't think something's worth it, or in terms of value, right? Everyone thinks value differently. That gets very expensive, especially when you're dealing with the government. And especially when you're dealing with your commodity, right? Because depending on what it is, it's sitting there, it could go bad, right? If it's food or something like that. Or if you're bringing it in and it's in a warehouse in Denbridge or anything else, that adds up very quickly.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Not to go into a dark spot, but like, I guess one thing I'd be wondering with goods exchanging hands so many times, obviously there's the risk of people trying to smuggle something you don't know about in. Like, what is the inspection process look like?
They're really looking. Okay. And it's funny, someone asked that question the other day, and one of the other freight forwarders we work with had an excellent answer. And she was just like, it's like going through airport security. They can stop you if they want and then strip you down and search right through you. But it's really true. It's like, and they're getting tougher because they want to make sure, and depending on the season and whatever they're bringing in, CBP does their job and they do it very, very well. And they know exactly what they're dealing with. And for the most part, they know who they're dealing with, and they want to make sure too. Like we're going to be CT PAT certified within the next couple of days. So we're CT PAT certified, and it would be good to work with CT PAT certified people because CBP knows them. They could who they're trusting and who they're working with. They're going to look and they're going to make sure if they feel the need.
So yeah, exams can be targeted or random or both. They have the right, just like when you go to the airport, anyone else, TSA can choose to check your bag. They can choose to check your body, or they can just ask you questions or verify your documents, or just stop you because they just want to ask you how your day was. And Border Protection, CBP, has the same right as TSA on your goods for commercial goods. Put it this way. They can ask for customs paperwork. They can ask to open the front door. They can ask to smell inside. They can ask to strip it all the way down to the interior box. And as the importer of record and the person importing legally, you are responsible for the contents of those goods and the regulations in there. So knowing your supplier and getting the paperwork right will prepare you for an exam that either is a random or intentional. You can prepare. Like, we know certain goods at certain seasons are going to have physical exams. Like granite coming from Italy in June to Miami actually is stopped, weirdly enough, by APHIS, which is the bug police of the government, because there's pests in those regions. that sneak into the
Yeah.
container that can potentially destroy our crops here. So in season, they stop every single granite shipment from this region in Italy to ensure there's no pests, not because you're doing anything wrong, not because your paperwork is wrong. They just want to make sure there's no pests. So if you're prepared and you're knowledgeable and you work with people that are knowledgeable, like Kaufman Logistics, will prepare you and say, don't be scared. You're going to have an exam. You're going to bidet 2 weeks. This is why.
Yeah.
We can prepare for those exams and prepare the customer, because once you hear hold, everyone kind of gets scared. So we try to prepare the paperwork and the customers so there's minimal exams.
Yeah, or even working with, a lot of times we're working with Port Everglades with the association and there's a quarterly meeting. I think there's one coming up soon enough with the agriculture, just so we could go through what bugs, what they're looking for, what's at the top of the list, Honduras and bananas or anything like that. So
Right.
we're always keeping up to date and making sure that we know what they're looking for, what's coming up, what season we're in, where CBP is. We meet with them and we make sure we're in the know, and then that way we keep our clients just at the top of the list.
Right. Oh, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I appreciate you guys coming on. I mean, I think I've learned a lot. I'm sure the listeners will, especially folks who are not familiar with this industry. So I'm sure people will want to reach out.
We didn't even scratch the surface.
We might need to have a second episode.
I think we might.
We might need to do another one.
There's 100%. We really enjoyed this, so thank you.
Find us
between now and then, if people want to reach out, how can people find you?
You can send us an email on info@kaufmanlogistics.com. They can find us on all the social medias under Kaufman Logistics, or www.kaufmanlogistics.com. Pick up the phone, call us. You will not get a robot. You will get one of our team members, or Elizabeth or I, depending on the time of day. And we're happy to answer any shipping regulatory changes, anything you read in the news that comes with duties and taxes. That is all in our realm and wheelhouse, and we're happy to help.
Anything in logistics, you got us. We got you.
You heard it here first.
I love this. Thank you.
Kaufman Logistics. I'll put your information down in the show notes. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a great night.